Okay, you guys, I am beyond excited today to have Mr. KB, Kevin Bracy, share with us from the heart, because it's all that he knows how to do is share from his heart, which is why I love listening to him and interacting with him. So before we get into some practical tips and techniques and ways to live our very best life and to have an amazing relationship with ourselves, because I believe that is the most important relationship that we have, because from that everything else springs,
Right.
or flows. So before we get into that though, and here's some words of wisdom, Kevin, tell us please what you have been up to, because you have been moving and rocking and rolling. So tell us what your life looks like now and what you're doing.
You know, it was 2.5 weeks into quarantine when everything shut down, when Disneyland shut down, is when it got serious for me personally. When I saw Disneyland was shut down, I went, what? That's when I really started to get concerned. And then basketball season, and then the NBA, and then the Major League Baseball, and then schools. And I was like, oh, so when school shut down, that's my livelihood. That's what I do. 95% of my business is in schools. So 2.5 weeks in, everybody was shocked. And then I started to get phone calls from some principals. And they were like, Kevin, I don't know, I don't have any answers, but we feel like we're losing a connection with our kids. And I heard that with multiple principals, but the word that I kept hearing was connection. We're losing that connection with our kids. They're losing a connection with their future. They're losing a connection with their dreams. We want to keep them connected to school. And connection was the buzzword. So I said, okay. First thing that came to mind, Janice, was start making videos. You got to make more videos. You got to talk more. And then I was like, wait a minute. Nah, that's not the answer. Because everybody's talking. Everybody has a platform now. Everybody's going live. Everybody. So I said, what if I create an environment where they can talk to us? So I started to get creative and created a product that I didn't know it was a product, called a connection session, where I invited seniors, 8th graders, and 6th graders. Why 6th, 8th, and 12th? Because they're making the biggest transition right now in life. Put them on a Zoom, 6 to 8 people, students, and just ask them questions about what you're asking me right now. What does your life look like now? Where were you when you found out this was serious? What do you do when you get sad and feel depressed? What makes you happy? What would you want to say to your teachers? How do you feel about social media or FaceTime versus seeing somebody in person nowadays? Has that changed since you're not in school? So all those different questions. And from that, I manufactured a connection session where I called some students that I knew and some parents, and I created proof of concept. And I took it to a district, and it went boom. And they hired me to do over 50 talks. I've done over 50 talks in the last 30 days or something like that. From that one, just an idea. Now, I'm not brilliant. I just was willing to step into that space and say, here's what I have, because they didn't have anything. So anything would have worked, but it ended up working. So I started doing connection sessions, virtual assemblies, and I started creating videos for students to do challenges, which is kind of a buzz in social media. It's keeping everybody going. So,
well, that is amazing. And I would think that at those ages, this topic about our relationship with ourselves and self-love and those types of issues are very present. So tell us how that is talking to teenagers. How often does this come up as far as how they feel about themselves? Because I just remember for me when I was a teenager, and all the fears and all the not good enoughs, and now with social media being so prevalent, I'm sure you hear a lot of these kids talking about how that impacts them and how they view themselves. How has that been to interact with them about that?
You know, I should have probably talked to you before I went into my connection sessions, because I should have asked them the direct question about self-love. I should have asked them a direct question about how they feel about themselves. And I didn't. And as you're explaining this and setting up the question, I didn't know it was coming. I should have asked that question. And I never did. However, when they're in that space and they're answering questions, there's a vulnerability that they throw themselves into the conversation, and they're giving me the most authentic versions of themselves. Now, are those not good enough still in the back of their minds? Are those, I'm not smart enough, I'm not enough? I'm sure all of that is still there, and I'm hoping and believing that they will eventually work through that, like we all are in the process of trying to do, I guess. But we didn't talk a lot about self-love. But in talking to you right now, I just put a little something in my head that I definitely have to spend a little bit more time in that direction. But when I talk to elementary school kids, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, my very first point every single time in the BRACE, BRACE, which is my acronym, the B is be kind to yourself and others. You got to put you first. Before you can be kind to anyone else, it starts with you. So I do have it in there, but that's with my elementary school kids.
Ah, gotcha. And so I'm actually really curious. Was there ever a time in your life where you actually disliked yourself? Like had any of that? Because I know for me, there definitely was. I have had those moments of, I don't know if I would say self-loathing, because that's so extreme, but maybe, a little bit of that self-hatred, which goes hand in hand, I think, with the not good enough belief. Has that ever been something in your life, or have you not really felt that type of a thing?
Absolutely, I felt it. I mean, longer than I can. I mean, from elementary school, middle school, high school until I was 25, I did not wake up to self-realization and self-awareness until I was 25. I was defined by a sport. It was baseball. If I played a good game, I'm awesome. If I went 0 for 4, meaning no hits, 4 times at bat, I suck. But through all of that, I'm ugly in my own head. I'm unorthodox. Just my everything, my teeth, my face had acne. Just, I did not see myself. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think any of those enoughs, that was me. Or not enoughs, that was me. But when I was 25, when I started to change my conversation with myself, when I realized and I was woke, if you will, to the power of positive words and positivity and books and audio programs, when I started to put that stuff inside of me, my dialogue in me started to change. But that did not happen until I was 25.
Okay, and that's huge. That the internal dialogue that we have with ourselves is huge, like paramount.
Everything.
It's everything. It's everything. So Kevin, how do we take those baby steps and make those changes to something that for many of us is so entrenched, right? And sometimes we don't even know that we're living from that belief system or from those thoughts, that they're actually controlling our life. We're giving them that kind of power. So how you just started listening and absorbing all of this positive information. And I know that you had traveled around with Les Brown, right? Mm-hmm. And had seen him speak and hear all of his input. And can I just say one thing that I love about him, and I've never met him in person, but just from what I've seen, he laughs. Like, oh my gosh, this amazing, genuine, from the gut
Yes.
laughter. And it's
Yes.
awesome. I love that about him. I'm like, yes, probably because I
Brand. That's his brand for sure. That's his brand. That's part of his brand for sure.
So good. And then I saw him with his daughter, and she was exactly the same way. They were cracking up together. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. So,
Right.
so I guess
Baby
my
steps.
question, what's that?
You're saying the baby steps.
The baby steps. And so what do people do? So besides the input of this really positive self-talk and good information, what other steps can people take to rewire really their brain, their way of thinking?
See, it's you in my mind, you know, as a communicator, you want to be deep in a situation like this to explain it in a way that's so deep, but it really isn't that deep. It's really simple. And I'm going to go back for a second and then come forward. A lot of that programming comes from how we were raised. And I was raised in an environment where my mom and my dad was a great man, but he was alcohol and drugs controlled his world, right? He was a functioning alcoholic, a functioning addict that went to work every day for a while, had a band, and then eventually he went over the top and lost his job and lost his band and became a guy who was a vagabond on the street, staying from house to house, female to female, trying to find his next hit. But during my childhood years, we tend to remember the negative things more than the positive things, right? And I know it is for me. And when you hear your dad, and I'm just going to kind of give a warning because I got to tell it like it is, that I'm going to use some vulgar language, not to disrespect anybody, but to give people a real idea of what I heard. I would hear things like, you ain't shit. Look at you, you ugly MF. You ain't my son. You're your mama's son. You ain't my son. When you hear stuff like that from your dad, I almost start crying. When you hear stuff like that from your dad, who doesn't mean he loves me, but he's not in his right mind. And you hear that tape playing in your head and you're supposed to get dressed and go to school and feel like you're handsome and feel like you're enough. Nah, it didn't work like that for me. So over years, I think it was MIT that did a study that said for every negative comment we hear, take 16 positive statements, override the one negative. Boy, was I behind. I was way behind when I woke up when I was 25, when I was introduced to my first personal development book and cassette tape. I said it. I'm 48. Yes, I listen to tapes. And I had to rewire that if I wanted to be somebody that encouraged and built other people up. So the simplicity of it, it's a discipline though. You have to really want to do it. It's one thing to say, oh, I want to be positive and but you have to really want to do that. It can't just be this superficial, hey, pie in the sky. I wanted to change because I wanted different results for my family and for my kids. So what I started doing was reading something positive 15 to 20 minutes every single day. Not 2 hours, not 5 hours, just consistently every day. Listening to an audio program today, podcast, 15 to 20 minutes every single day. And just that alone, reading and listening, started to change some things. I felt better. I walked a little taller, had a little bit more confidence. And then what I was reading and what I was listening to, I started to say out loud to myself, there's greatness in you. Your dreams are possible. It's going to be hard, but it's doable. Whatever the mind can conceive or believe, it can achieve. I started to say these quotes and these things that I was reading, and it made me feel different. And if you do that over time for a week and then 2 weeks, are you going to miss a day? Yes, you missed a day. Okay, I missed a day. I'm going to start again tomorrow, right? Over a month's period of time, over a quarter's period of time, over years, that tape starts to change. Then you go for walks and you're on walks and you're just I'm looking in the sky and I'm in the moment, but then I start my affirmations and say, I believe that there's no wealth or position that can long endure without being built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed in my life by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use in the cooperation of other people. I will cause others to serve me because of my willingness and ability to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing a love for all of humanity. Because I know that a negative attitude towards other people can never and will never bring me success. I'll cause others to believe in me because I believe in them. I believe in myself. I believe in Almighty God. I will sign my name to this formula. I will commit to it in memory, and I will repeat it out loud once a day with full faith that it will affect my actions, my attitudes, and my thoughts, so that I will become the self-reliant and successful person that I was meant to be. I can do a 30-minute affirmation, but that is from the book Think and Grow Rich. It was a selection. They challenged us to memorize it. I did it through one of my reading sessions. I memorized it and I repeated it. And I've been repeating it for over 20 years now.
Okay, I love that, because one of the things, so I think with self-love, sometimes we think bubble baths and pedicures, and there is a part of that, like we need to care for ourselves and treat ourselves. That's totally true.
Outside, right?
What?
The outside of our bodies, but we're talking about something else now.
Right. And the stuff that it's the self-discipline. So what you're talking about, it's the hard work that we actually maybe don't want to do because it's work and it's effort. But it's almost like the parent, and you're a parent, so you would appreciate this, when you know what's best for your child, but they don't maybe see it or whatever. And you're like, no, you have to brush your teeth, you see, because if you don't, you're going to have the cavities and you're going to have this and that. And maybe they don't get it, but they're doing things, like you were saying, consistently that make a difference. And it's work and it's effort. So talk to that, because you are one of the hardest working people that I know. And I so admire that, because I can tend toward lazy. And so how do you develop that muscle? Because I think it is a muscle. And how do you develop that muscle of, I'm just going to put in this consistent hard work that's not overwhelming, because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves, right? But just like, do you have a formula or a philosophy about that?
Yeah, I have more of a philosophy. I would say, there's a couple things that come up right away. Jab, and one of the things, I call her Jab, just so you know. Yeah. Who? That's love, Jab.
I love it.
It's, for me, the reason why I work so hard is because I don't want to be a zero. I just didn't want to. I always felt like I was good in sports, but I wasn't great. I was a little overlooked. I wasn't quite as fast as everyone. I wasn't quite as strong as everyone. I wasn't quite as talented as everyone. And in school, I struggled. Why am I struggling in math? And why am I struggling? And now today I overcompensate, because I just don't want to be I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to be a zero. So I really work hard. That's why, out of fear, scared. I wrote a book called Scared Great. It's true. I've been scared that I wasn't going to be smart enough, good enough, handsome enough, talented enough to make it in sports or to make it in speaking. So I just overworked so that I wouldn't have to. So I could say, I could look myself in the mirror and say, maybe I didn't make it there, but I can at least say I worked my tail off. I feel like it comes from having a strong enough, and I know this is going to sound trite. I get it. It's going to sound banal. When you have a strong enough reason to do something. I sat down late at night memorizing these quotes that empowered me, because I wanted to be able to just recite them just like that, because I saw Les doing it. So I said, I want to be able, so I made it important to sit. You have to learn this. I'm sleepy. I don't care if you're sleepy, Kevin. You have to learn this tonight, line by line. Every TV's off, everything's off. I got to learn this stuff because it matters. It's going to help me. These words build me up and empower me. And once I become that speaker that I want to become, this is years ago, once I become that speaker and I'm starting to get booked, I'll have this stuff in me and I'll never have to worry about where my info, I'm always going to have enough information. I'm never going to be like, okay, I don't know what to say next. I'm going to study this, overcompensate to make sure that I have enough in me that I always have something to draw from. But I made it important. I had a why. I knew why I wanted to do it. I had a reason. So when people who say, I want to do this and I want to do that, and they're awesome people, but saying it is one thing. What we want shows up in conversation, but what we really mean shows up in our behavior and how we work.
So I'm fascinated by the, I guess, paradoxes in life. And earlier you had talked about sitting still, right? And being in stillness in that place. And then we also have this concept of hard work and doing that. And I believe both are super, super important. How do you balance or find a flow in that? Or is that a challenge for you? How does that work with the being still, being open to God to impart to you, or your own internal wisdom to impart to you, versus getting up, making it happen, you know, hard work, the memorization, all of that stuff? What is that like for you?
First, what comes up is we have to take a look at what hard work is. Because when you say hard work, I think of those men and women who climb poles and work on electricity, the lines, that's work. I look at those men and women who work in the street, who are drilling things and putting things and cement and construction work. That's hard, physical work. To me, it's not hard work to sit and to try to memorize a quote or a semblance of words that we just read that moved you. And you say, I want this in me. So I'm going to sit with a cup of coffee, a glass of water, some Gatorade at home, and I'm going to turn everything off and not scroll through my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I'm going to memorize these words. To me, that's not hard work. It's a commitment. You have to know why you want to do it, but it's not hard work. Even building my speaking business, where it took me 16 years to break through, Janice Burt, 16 to break through and become a local household name, which is all I need. I don't need to be a worldwide. I don't need that anymore. That was 10 years ago. I would have said something different, but now I'm so at peace. But it took me 16 years. People go, you worked hard for 16 years. It wasn't hard work. It was consistent working on me behind closed doors in order to be able to present the person that I wanted to be once those bookings started to come. Now, balancing the work part and the silence part, I try to waking up in the morning, and that first 5 to 10 minutes is dedicated to silence. To try to push all thoughts out of my head. I'm trying to cleanse my mind of no thoughts. That's impossible, but I'm at least consciously trying to do that. I'm just being in the moment. And then, I start there, and then you go from some silence to gratitude. What are you grateful for? To affirmations or incantations, talking to yourself, to visualization. So that morning flow that I have, silence is built into that. In fact, it's the first part of that. I don't wake up praying in prayer. I wake up trying to quiet my brain, trying to remember. I don't know if you remember that game called the Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
And you shake it and it goes, I'm trying to shake myself to go clean slate for today and then start. So silence has to be in there every single day. Research shows that for every 24 hours, we need at least 15 minutes of silence. That's all that's required, I guess. I can't do 15 because I got self-diagnosed ADD, but I got hella D's. So, but I can do 5. I can do 5, Janice Burt. I can do 5 minutes of hella D's.
That's awesome. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So we pick and choose our silent spots though, but it's got to be in there. It's got to be in there.
Right.
I used to go to the park, Elk Grove Park, and just sit in my car. Just roll my windows down, park under some shade, turn everything off, and just be. And some of my greatest ideas that I'm living in today came through silence. At work, silence.
What would you say to the person that is in so much pain, that feels so much pain, that silence is a very scary place for that person? How do we overcome that?
I mean, I feel like it's like anything else. We have to practice, and practice in short spurts, not long ones. Shorts, like 60 seconds. Let me try. Quiet my brain. I'm going to start with just 60 seconds. I'm going to set a timer or whatever. And I just want to be. My mind's going to wander, but eventually it's whatever, to me, whatever we do consistently, practice makes improvement. We will get better, but don't start with 15 minutes of silence or 5 minutes of silence. Start with 60 seconds. Start with 30 seconds. Just spend 30 seconds of just right now and just do nothing for 30 seconds. And then eventually you can work your way up to a minute, and then 2 minutes, and 3 minutes. And I'm not even saying put a time frame on it, but if for the sake of answering the question, start small. Start small and then go big. I got a text message the other day from some students who talk with me over DM about everything that's happening in the world right now, and they want to have a voice, and they were like, hey, Coach Greatness, I want to start a radio show and a podcast. How do we do that? I said, that's awesome. You can do that. I said, you know what? Start by just posting something on your Instagram regularly, on a regular basis, until you start to get the following in the audience, and then we can transition into a radio show or a podcast. You put a radio show together now, who's going to listen? Start small, and then expand. Dream global, focus local. Start your silence in 30-second increments, and then grow from there.
That's good. So baby steps, because what I've found, and for me, for a lot of my life, I feel like I was running from myself in a sense, because I was running from the pain, like you talked about childhood. So the way I see it, unless we're willing to really look at our life and sit with the pain, be with the pain of that, there's no way really to move through that. We kind of have to allow it.
Face it.
You have to face it, right? Look at it square on and face it. So for people that have, traumatic pasts, and that maybe live in a state of depression or anxiety or just dread every single day, for those people, and I know we're starting small, but what are some other tools, just some quick things that they can do to really begin the process? Because right now we just want to begin the process, and that's why I like doing the yoga right before showing these interviews, because I really feel like movement helps to connect us to ourselves and changes our state of mind. And then there's also all the chemicals that are released, that are just good. So that would be one, in my opinion, would be some sort of movement, changing your state. What are some other things that you would say would be helpful?
I feel like what I could say that would be helpful for me would be different than what someone else would be helpful for them. So as we talk, we just kind of stimulate thought processes so people can start thinking on this plane of what would work for them. One of the things that I asked the students to do after our connection sessions, I said, send me your top 5 that help you thrive when you're in a tough time. So I believe we all should have some go-to moves when we're not in our best mental state, physical. I mean, we're just not feeling well. We don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. Why do you feel the way you feel? I don't know. And then when you say, I don't know, you feel even worse because you think I'm an adult or I should know. I don't know why I feel this way. And you start beating yourself up and you go down that, down into the doldrums. But I feel like we got to have a top 5 go-to. You said movement. I like to go to my gym, which is my garage, and work out. That's one of the things that I do. I like to pick up a book and read something that will help distract that moment that I'm feeling, or whatever I'm feeling, that overwhelm, that anxiety, that fear that many, as you know, are living in right now. In this moment, as you and I are talking, millions are in that space. I like to write. What are some of the things? Just get it out. What are you feeling? Get it out. What are you learning right now? Get it out. It could be in your phone, in your notes app, or whatever it might be. So we're talking about a workout. We're talking about reading. We're talking about writing. I will turn on music. Old school music. Oh, man. It wins every single time.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's why all these dance parties are like the thing right now, right?
No.
People feel better.
It's music. So music is a go-to move for me, and I try to mix 2 if I can. Workout and music. Oh my gosh, I'm at the top of the mountain right now, right? I got them both going at the same time. That definitely distracts my mood and my moment. And then sometimes it's just having a conversation with your loved one, whether it be your spouse, whether it be your children, whether it be a confidant, whether it be just a good friend, just to have some quality conversation with someone like yourself who's a great listener and who just loves people through and through and is not afraid to show your own vulnerabilities to the world. And you're an open book, man. You're one of the greatest humans on earth. I'm not trying to gas you up just to be nice. You, my friend, there's certain people you just don't have any words to explain. So just having a conversation with somebody who's special like that helps. So that's top 5. Create your top 5 so that when you feel yourself going in that space, you have a go-to move that you can go to. Oh, that doesn't work? Okay, I got another. Oh, that's not working? I got another one. That doesn't work? I got another one. None of them work today. Okay, that's where I am today. But tomorrow's going to be better. I'm just going to be in this space right now. I'm going to cry. I'm going to pout. I'm going to be in this depressed state. I'm going to go in my room. I'm going to shut the blinds. I'm going to be in the dark and I'm going to sleep. And then I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to try it again.
Yes. That's amazing because I've done that many times. So thank you that was basically blow by blow. I'm glad someone sees me. That's awesome.
That's funny. Right. I'm saying it because I understand it.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, you just shed so much light and wisdom and truth and love over, just every conversation and interaction. So my heart is full. I know everybody that's watching this is going to have benefited hugely from it. So I just want to say thank you for being who you are, my friend. You're truly one of a kind and amazing.
Thank you so much, Janice. I'll talk to you soon, and my love to all your loved ones, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day. All right.